guys, Bekah here. This is part 3 of my self-care series with me. So if you haven't tuned in to my other 2 videos prior, really this series is all about self-care and the 3 areas that I think are very important to know, which is mind, body, and soul. So the first one, mind, was about mental health. The second one, body, was about physical health. And then today is soul. So to really jump right in, soul is your needs and desires. So this is probably the hardest one to tackle because it's different for everyone, with the exception of one, but we'll get into that later. So soul is about what you personally need to feel fulfilled and feel whole. So it's about finding the things that nourish our soul, and making those things a priority is just like our mental and physical health. So because of that, this one is a little bit harder because it can be viewed as selfish. Most of the time, it's from people that have benefited from you putting your needs in front of your own. And, you know, we don't need that kind of bad energy anyway, but it is important that, you do understand that whenever you do start implementing your own needs and desires into your self-care and really start making it a priority, that it will be a little bit hard for yourself and for the others that you put higher than yourself on your list to really reprioritize those things. But it is important that you do it. Now, this is especially hard if you identify as a woman, because we do have this expectation a lot of the time that other people's needs are more important than our own. And just by our nature, a lot of the time we do put other people's needs before our own. Now, just to note, I'm not saying that you shouldn't care about other people's needs and you have responsibilities, especially if you have children. But what I am saying is that your needs matter and they're just as important as other people's needs. So this topic, being extremely specific to you as an individual, I'm going to talk about it a little different than my last 2 videos. Really, with my last 2 videos, I kind of talked about things that I do with my daily self-care practices and giving you some recommendations and advice on figuring out what those things are for you. So for this one, I'm really going to try to help you visualize what those needs and desires are so that you can then start practicing them with your self-care routine. So I'm going to ask you a question in line of, how do we choose what we should be doing to nourish our souls? My question I would like to ask you is, what gives me joy? I want you to sit in that a little bit. What gives me joy? I'm sure that, there's going to be plenty of time to think about that and really, really dig into that deeper. But really kind of asking yourself, what does give me joy? And whatever those things that come to mind, those are the things that are going to nourish you. Those are going to be the things that you're going to want to make sure that you do as frequently as you can so that you are giving yourself those needs. Now, first, I am going to talk about the need that we all share, and that is connection. We all need to feel a sense of connection to others. We need to feel love. So this can come from your family, friendships, romantic relationships. I even think that on some level you can get this from your pets. Not as required as human connection, but it still is a connection and a love that can help you in times of need and when you're struggling a little bit. So just as long as you have people in your life, it doesn't matter what the connections look like necessarily, just as long as that you have people that are there for you and you're there for them in return. This keeps us feeling connected and really that we belong, and that's very important. I think that this year has really been a true testament to that as well, and that need for us to really be connected to one another. And I think one of the silver linings that has come out of this year is that we kind of realize that and have been making sure that we put in the effort to stay connected with our loved ones, regardless of what that looks like. You just have to make sure that you're doing it. So, this can be a coffee date. It can be a FaceTime call. It really doesn't matter what exactly you're doing to connect with others. All that matters is that you're doing it. And, right now with everything going on, it has made it harder to connect with people. So we have had to be a little creative with it and do things a little differently than we used to keep that connection going with the people that we love. But it still is very important that we are doing those things. Now, that's not to say that you can't unplug or disconnect when you need to. For all of my introverted souls out there like myself, I need time that I am unplugged and disconnected for my own mental health. But it's very important that we do resurface, and after we get that need that of unplugging or disconnecting for a little bit, that we do come back up and then reconnect with the people that matter to us. That brings me to personal needs. This goes back to my question on what gives you joy. So these things don't need to be earth-shattering. They can be as simple as reading a book, or going shopping alone, or just fresh air. It's what things that you can do or that you do here and there that really make you feel like you. So think about that a little bit, that statement. What are some things that you do that make you feel like you, like a human again, or, however you want to say it? Those are the things that you're going to want to notice, and you're going to want to jot down and just make sure that you're doing a little more. Because those are the things that, give us joy and that are really feeding that need that we have. And we got to make sure that we're doing those things. And yes, sometimes, life gets in the way and we can't always do those things, and that's fine. But as long as you do try to take some time regularly to do some of those things, that's the important part. Also to note is come up with as many of these things as you can. So the reason for coming up with as many as these things as you can is because there's a time and a place for things. For example, I love being out in the woods, but then winter comes and that's a big no for me. So then I have to find something else that is going to give me joy and that is going to feed that need. And so having, a big collateral of things that give me joy and that will help me is going to be a benefit to me, regardless of the season or, just life as well, getting in the way. Having a lot of different things that you could potentially do is going to be helpful to making sure that you are still doing those things that you need. Last is desires. So our desires are what we want. And while we might not need these things, I do think that they're important. while we shouldn't expect that our needs and our wants will always be satisfied, we should still have them and acknowledge them and try our best to fulfill them. So I want you to ask yourself, what do I really want? So think about that. Take more time after this to think about that. What do I want? This can be, super big picture, 10-year plan, whatever, or it can just be something simple that you can do, once a week. So this can be, you've been really wanting to buy yourself something special, but you feel guilty to splurge on yourself of, something you might not need. Or you want to see a movie that's out, but you don't have anyone to go with. Or you want you and your partner to spend more quality time together. Even you want that raise. So it might be uncomfortable sometimes to allow ourselves the things that we want, and also to ask for the things that we want. Personally, that's a struggle for me. I have always had a very hard time asking for the things that I want, and that's something that, back on part 1 with minds, I, go to therapy to work through that so that I can get better at asking for what I want. And the cool thing about it is that once you start to get used to asking for what you want, you tend to get it, which is pretty cool. So, we all deserve to give ourselves the things that we need and want, and also to receive those things if it's something that we're asking for. So being able to know what it is that we want and to just go for it is so empowering. And in my opinion, is a form of self-care. And it's definitely a form of self-love. And we all need that. Now, if you can't tell from my series on self-care, I'm very passionate about it. And I want people to realize just how transformative it can be for our lives and just our growth. So just like a plant, if we don't water ourselves, literally and figuratively, we won't grow. And that's what I think that self-care is missing a lot of the time when people talk about it, is that yes, we all need self-care, but we need to be intentional about it, and we need to use it to help us reach for the things that we want and just be better and to be happier and to be more nourished. It's about finding what self-care practices work for you, and then making sure that it's helping you reach your goals and the things that you want to do in your life. I really hope that you enjoyed the series, but more than that, I hope it sheds some light on self-care and the ways that we can be more intentional, like I said, and put in the work and do the things so that we can get what we want out of life and out of, our personal growth, our relationships, our careers. I really do believe that if we put in the work and we sit down and we become very clear about our hang-ups and the things we want to get better on, that if we actually start practicing ways to grow in those areas, our life is like tenfold going to just become so much better and so much more meaningful and make such a better impact on your own life, but also the lives of others. So really, thank you so much for following along with me for this series. And, I've really enjoyed it. And I hope that, at least some part of what I've talked about has resonated with you and has helped you. So that is it for me. I am empowering Bekah, and this is